The first warning wasn't a roar, nor a salvo of missiles, nor even a diplomatic communique laced with thinly veiled threats. It was a song, a complex rhythmic pulse of graviton emissions, meticulously designed by humanity's brightest minds to be universally understandable, yet utterly alien to the hyperlogical. It was laced with coded data packets, not of language, but of pure, raw data on causality, temporal distortions, and the inherent beautiful chaos of the subquantum. Broadcast from the lonely, uncharted edge of the Perseus Arm, from a deep space station aptly named Cassandra, it had propagated for 2 standard galactic cycles. A persistent, almost mournful hum against the static of deep space, it vibrated with an urgent message. Turn back. There are things here you do not understand. Things that will break your logic and shatter your fleets. The harmony you seek is a dangerous illusion here. The Vahorian Collective, a pan-galactic empire whose civilization dated back to the cooling of the first stars, whose ships could navigate hyperspace with picometer precision, intercepted it naturally. Their vast, crystalline data spires on the capital world of Xylos Prime, bathed in the cool glow of a binary sun, processed it with their customary clinical efficiency. Their society was built on elegant algorithms, perfect symmetry, and a serene, unwavering belief in universal order. Analysis complete, Supreme Vizier Xylos 7 chirped a subordinate Vahorian, a multi-limbed creature of shimmering carapace plates named Cathar Unit 42. His voice, a series of precise clicks and whirs. The repeating signature emanates from an unsanctioned species, designation Terran 3, originating from an unstable third-tier star system, designated Sol. The message itself appears to be a chaotic arrangement of electromagnetic noise, interspersed with primitive binary code fragments and what appears to be a series of non-Euclidean geometric patterns that dissolve upon further analysis. Our translation algorithms are unable to find any coherent meaning. It registers as a level gamma 9 anomaly, irrelevant environmental static. Supreme Vizier Xylos 7, a being of immense size and an even vaster intellect, its central carapace pulsing faintly with irritation, shifted on its throne of woven starlight. Primitive, indeed, the usual effluvia of an emergent species attempting to assert territoriality with incoherent noise. Their energy signatures are inefficient, their FTL drives crude, their social structures, as gleaned from the ambient signals of their homeworld, appear to be a chaotic mix of cooperation and internecine conflict, driven by emotion. Dismiss it. Our expansion into sector Gamma 7 Theta is critical for harvesting the unique chronoton deposits. Their warning is nothing more than static on the cosmic wind, a minor navigational hazard to be disregarded. Proceed with optimal resource acquisition protocols. The Vorians valued order, logic, and above all, efficiency. Anything that deviated from this doctrine was, by definition, irrelevant, a temporary fluctuation in the grand, predictable cosmic ballet. They had no concept of intuition, of a gut feeling, or the hard-won wisdom born from millennia of barely surviving on a volatile homeworld, where logic often took a back seat to sheer, pig-headed grit. So the warning, a song meant to warn of inherent chaos, was ignored. The Vorian exploration fleet, a gleaming armada of 50 crescent-shaped starships, led by the colossal flagship Heart of Logic, sliced through the void. Their FTL drives left shimmering wakes that stitched the fabric of space with precise, unwavering lines. They were precise, powerful, and utterly convinced of their own superiority. They were on a mission of resource acquisition, an act as natural to them as breathing, as inevitable as a logical conclusion. Deep within the very sector the Vorians so casually dismissed, nestled within the shifting, luminous, electromagnetic currents of the Veil Nebula, was the spirit of discovery. She wasn't a warship, not even a diplomatic vessel. She was an old-model long-range explorer, a venerable rust bucket to some, a beloved workhorse to her crew. Her hull was patched with plates scavenged from decommissioned cargo haulers. Her engines hummed with a well-worn grumble that Macmillan insisted was character, and her air filters constantly struggled to eliminate the faint scent of stale coffee. Chief Engineer Macmillan's questionable pipe tobacco, and the lingering aroma of Dr. Eris Thorne's experimental, vaguely noxious bioluminescent fungi cultures. Her mission? To map the anomaly, study the phenomena, and if possible, understand the very thing humanity had spent decades warning the galaxy about, the shimmer, as they affectionately called it, a localized space-time distortion that defied all known physics. On the bridge, Captain Elias Eli Vance, a man whose easy, sun-weathered smile belied a mind like a steel trap and a will forged in the crucible of 100 tight spots, leaned back in his command chair, his well-worn boots propped casually on the navigation console. Eli wasn't a spit and polish kind of captain. He was the kind of guy you'd want a beer with after the universe tried to swallow you whole, the kind who'd tell you a wild story while calmly steering through an asteroid field. All right, Eris, what's the verdict on this? Shimmer our deep space sensors are picking up. Looks like someone spilled a cosmic glitter bomb, and it's throwing off my Sudoku game. Lieutenant Commander Dr. Eris Thorne, Chief Science Officer, a man whose spectacles were perpetually askew, whose lab coat was usually stained with something inexplicable, and whose hair looked like he wrestled a badger every morning, peered at the holographic display. Captain, with all due respect, glitter bomb is not a scientifically rigorous term. We are observing highly unusual energy fluctuations, consistent with quantum entanglement on a macroscopic scale, interacting with localized temporal distortions. It's like a tear in the very fabric of space-time, only benevolent. Or perhaps, he added, adjusting his glasses, a mischievous glint in his eye, a vast, incredibly complex cosmic jellyfish in a perpetual state of hyperdimensional flatulence. Its signature aligns perfectly with the unstructured noise the Vorians dismissed. Across from him, Commander Lena Jax Jackson, the ship's first officer, a woman whose calm demeanor and sharp tactical mind were renowned throughout the fleet and whose sarcasm was as legendary as her piloting skills, raised an eyebrow. Are we talking beautiful but harmless, or will swallow us whole and convert us into exotic particles while playing polka music? Preliminary analysis suggests beautiful but potentially hungry with an unpredictable appetite, Eris replied, entirely serious. It's what our warning beacon, the Cassandra song, has been broadcasting about for years, attempting to communicate the inherent instability and unpredictable nature of this region. It explicitly warned of chaotic temporal flux and localized reality distortions, but the Vorians, bless their hyper-logical hearts, dismissed it as unstructured noise, lacking coherent meaning. Well, they're about to meet some very structured noise, delivered with a distinctly human accent, Eli muttered, pushing off his console. He walked over to the main view screen, which showed nothing but the swirling ethereal gas and faint multicolored light of the Veil Nebula. Long-range sensors just picked up a fleet signature. Big one, Vorian, and they're not turning back. Looks like they're coming in hot. Right through the area, our warning beacon specifically highlighted as highly dangerous to all logical beings. Chief Engineer Macmillan, a burly Scots-American with a perpetual grease stain on his cheek, a wrench never far from his hand, and a thick brogue that got even thicker when he was excited, entered the bridge, wiping his hands on a rag. Engines are purring like a well-fed kitten, Captain. After that last jury-rig bypass on the grab manifold, she's practically begging for a joyride. Ready for anything from a leisurely cruise to a full-blown interstellar rodeo. What's the plan, boss? Are we going to wave politely or prep the "how do you like me now" torpedoes? We wave politely first, Mac, Eli said, a glint in his eye. Always good manners. Ensign Kai Nakamura, open a hailing frequency. Standard diplomatic protocol. Tell them they're entering a restricted scientific zone and they might want to reconsider their picnic plans. Add a polite suggestion that they check their astrophysics textbooks for Chapter 7. Don't poke the cosmic jellyfish. Kai, young, earnest, and still slightly overwhelmed by the sheer weirdness of deep space exploration, nodded and began transmitting, her fingers flying across the console. The Vorian response was immediate and utterly devoid of polite inquiry. A laser-thin energy beam lanced out from the lead Vorian cruiser, the Blade of Order, slicing through the void and impacting barely 100 meters from the Spirit of Discovery's bow. It was a warning shot, delivered with chilling, machine-like precision. They're not exactly in a chatty mood, Captain, Kai reported, a tremor in her voice, her knuckles white on the console. The hail was rejected. They sent a coded message. Translating. Unidentified Terran vessel. You are in violation of collective expansion protocols. Cease all activity and prepare for immediate structural analysis. Non-compliance will result in optimal systemic dissolution. Your presence is an inefficient obstacle to progress. Eli sighed, running a hand through his hair, a wry smile playing on his lips. Optimal systemic dissolution. Guess that's Vorian for, we're going to turn you into space dust because you're messing up our meticulously planned afternoon. Jax, defensive posture. Aris, what else do we know about Vorian combat doctrine? Anything that smells of a weak spot or a susceptibility to a well-placed fart joke. Highly centralized command, as previously noted, Aris rattled off, already pulling up more detailed data. Geometric formations, synchronized fire. They value overwhelming numerical superiority and prefer to engage at maximum range, dissolving targets before they can pose a threat. Their shields are designed to deflect concentrated energy discharges, specifically those that conform to predictable energy signatures. They are, however, notoriously vulnerable to, well, anything that deviates from their expected parameters. Anything that is illogical. And, Captain, their bioscans indicate a strong aversion to high-frequency, discordant auditory input. Meaning, Eli grinned, a mischievous glint in his eyes. They hate surprises, loud noises, and anything that makes their brains go, huh? And we're about to give them a whole damn birthday party of them, complete with a faulty karaoke machine. Mac, get your team ready. Jax, I want a series of evasive maneuvers that would make a seasoned pilot throw up and then ask for more. Kai, begin broadcasting our original warning message, but now intersperse it with every embarrassing home video Mac's ever taken. Let's see if they can optimally dissolve a toddler's birthday party, a cat riding a Roomba, and a surprisingly agile human attempting to rollerblade uphill. Macmillan's booming laugh filled the bridge, echoing off the worn bulkheads. You got it, Captain. My nephew's first steps, my wife's singing audition, and my own disastrous attempt at making a souffle, all tactical masterpieces. They'll be scratching their shiny heads for weeks. The Vorian fleet, utterly unconcerned by the return fire of a single human explorer, advanced. Their lead ship, the Blade of Order, a marvel of Vorian engineering, fired again, this time a full-energy blast, aimed squarely at the Spirit of Discovery. The Discovery shields flared, absorbing the impact with a protesting whine, the ship shaking violently. Shields at 70%, Kai yelled, her voice strained, her fingers flying across the console with a newfound urgency. They're locking on for another pass, estimating impact within 30 seconds if we maintain current trajectory. All right, crew, Eli's voice was calm, a comforting rumble in the tense silence, like a familiar melody in a storm. Welcome to the show, Vorian style. Remember, we're not a warship, we're a scientific vessel, which means we're going to fight them with science, art, a dash of chaos, and a whole lot of American ingenuity. Jax, show them why a rusty bucket can dance. Jax was already executing their evasive maneuvers. The Spirit of Discovery, despite its age and visible patches, was surprisingly nimble in her hands. Jax wove it through the nebula, using its turbulent currents and the dense gas to obscure their signature, dipping into pockets of electromagnetic interference that caused the Vorian sensors to glitch. The Vorians, accustomed to fighting in clear, predictable space, where every variable could be calculated, found their targeting systems struggling with the interference, like trying to track a greased pig in a smoke-filled room. Their firing solutions are degrading, Commander Cathar, the same Vorian tactical officer reported to Supreme Vizier Zelo 7, who was observing the engagement from his flagship, the Heart of Logic. The Terran vessel is utilizing the nebulous environment to its advantage. An illogical strategy, optimal combat dictates clear engagement zones, and their anomalous broadcast is now displaying what appears to be a multi-limbed Terran infant making a face at our primary view screen. Compensate, Xylos 7 commanded, a faint pulse of irritation emanating from its carapaced form. Their primitive maneuvers will not avail them. Focus all firepower, dissolve them, ignore the irrelevant visual data, it is merely a distraction. But dissolving the Spirit of Discovery proved harder than anticipated. While their main weapon systems struggled to lock, The Vorians deployed smaller, faster interceptors, sleek darts of metallic force, designed to swarm and overwhelm like a school of piranhas. These were their pincer units, specialized in close-range, high-speed elimination. Interceptors inbound, bearing 030. Fast movers, Captain, Kai shouted, her eyes darting between her console and the main view screen, where tiny, lethal Vorian ships were closing in. They're fast, Captain. Too many to track. Too fast for our main cannons, Jax muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration. We'll be swarmed before Mac can even warm up the coffee machine. Not if they can't see us properly, or if they're too busy arguing with themselves, Eli said, a sly smile spreading across his face. Eris, those holographic emitters you installed last month for charting the nebula's complex gas patterns, time to take them for a spin. Create a cloud of phantom contacts. Make them look like a stampede of cattle in a disco. A really, really loud disco. Eris, ever the enthusiast for pushing scientific boundaries into the absurd, practically bounced in his seat. Excellent, Captain. Calibrating holographic projections to mimic large organic masses in high-velocity, erratic patterns, augmented with rapid multispectrum light bursts and discordant audio frequencies. Their optical, thermal, and auditory sensors will be utterly overwhelmed. Prepare for disco cow apocalypse, Vorians. Suddenly, the Vorian interceptors, just as they were about to launch their attack runs, found themselves flying into a swirling kaleidoscope of ghostly bovine shapes, each one emitting bursts of blinding, strobing light and a cacophony of grating electronic music and distorted mooing sounds. Their sophisticated targeting systems went haywire, unable to differentiate between real targets and the holographic illusions. Some interceptors, following the ghost cattle, crashed into each other, their sleek hulls buckling. Others simply spiraled erratically, their pilots frantically trying to make sense of the visual and auditory assault. Collision detected! Multiple pincer units lost, Cathar cried, his clicking voice rising in pitch. Our interceptors are engaging phantom targets. Their projections are nonsensical. They are mimicking ancient Terran livestock in a highly agitated state, accompanied by what appears to be dance music and distorted agricultural sounds. This defies our threat assessment protocols. That's the American ingenuity package, folks. Eli chuckled over the comms, a genuine belly laugh escaping him. Always good for a laugh, and surprisingly effective for blowing up enemy ships. Mac, you sure you don't have any videos of a square dance in there? Might confuse them even more. While the Vorians were busy chasing holographic cows and trying to filter out disco beats, Macmillan and his engineering team were acting Phase 2, affectionately known as the Hot Potato Express. Captain, we're ready for the hot potato maneuver. Primary conduits charged, and the secondary thrusters are humming. Hot potato it is, Mac, Eli responded, his eyes fixed on the blade of order, the Vorian cruiser that was proving stubbornly persistent in its pursuit. Jax, get us close to that asteroid cluster, the one with the high metallic content, and then we play catch. The Spirit of Discovery veered sharply, performing a daring hairpin turn that sent coffee mugs clattering, heading towards a dense cluster of metallic asteroids. The Vorian Blade of Order, frustrated by the human ship's erratic evasiveness and the baffling disco cow phenomenon, followed, its powerful main gun charging, determined to end this illogical nuisance. As they got within range of the asteroids, Macmillan fired a series of low-yield kinetic charges into the asteroids, not at the Vorian ship, but at the cluster itself. The impacts, precisely timed and calculated to use the nebula's gravitational microfluctuations, sent massive chunks of rock and metallic ore hurtling outwards, directly into the path of the Blade of Order. The Vorians, whose shields were designed to deflect energy, struggled violently against the blunt, raw force of physical objects. Their automated collision avoidance systems, accustomed to orderly space and predictable trajectories, screamed in protest as their logic circuits overloaded. The Blade of Order shuddered violently as multiple asteroids, some the size of small moonlets, slammed into its pristine hull, denting and even breaching its outer layers. Alarms blared across its bridge, reporting structural integrity failures and localized atmospheric leaks. Physical impact detected, multiple hull breaches, grav plating failures, Cathar yelled, aghast, his clicking voice now a frantic cacophony. This is an unsophisticated form of combat. They are using rocks, Supreme Vizier. Our threat assessment did not account for weaponized geology. Unsophisticated but terrifyingly effective, Cathar, Eli muttered, watching the blade of order recoil, listing slightly as it struggled to maintain control. We call it taking out the trash, American style. Nothing like a good old-fashioned asteroid volley to clear the sinuses. The Vorians, despite their initial damage and growing confusion, maintained their pursuit. Their logic dictated that the small human vessel, however annoying and unconventional, must be dealt with. Its existence was an anomaly that needed to be resolved. But Eli Vance wasn't just fighting a battle. He was fighting a psychological war. He understood that the Vorians, for all their power, their advanced technology, and their numerical superiority, were rigid. They had a single-minded focus on order and predictability. And that, Eli knew, was their ultimate weakness. They're not just here for Chronoton, Eris, Eli said suddenly, his gaze fixed on the main display, where the glowing, pulsating core of the Veil Nebula anomaly shimmered ominously. This cosmic jellyfish, it's reacting to their presence. Not just the physical presence, but their energy signatures. What are they trying to do with it exactly? Eris, who had been studying the anomaly's reactions, now showed a grim set to his jaw. Captain, the Chronoton deposits are merely a byproduct. They are a stable energy source they wish to exploit. However, the Vorians appear to be attempting to stabilize the larger, chaotic temporal fluctuations within the anomaly itself. They believe they can harness its raw energy for, well, we don't know for what precise purpose. But their method involves injecting massive, synchronized bursts of concentrated antimatter into its core, using their flagship, the Heart of Logic, as the primary conduit. Something our warning, the Cassandra Song, specifically advised against, with multiple causal cascade warnings. Antimatter? Eli's eyes widened, the easygoing smile vanishing instantly, replaced by a look of dawning horror. Eris, what happens if they succeed with that kind of idiocy? Catastrophic temporal cascade, Captain, Eris replied, adjusting his glasses. A newfound urgency in his voice, his hair seemed to stand on end. The anomaly is a delicate balance of quantum probabilities and temporal pathways. If their crude, highly linear method works as intended, it could unravel space-time itself within this sector, creating a localized singularity that would consume everything, or worse, a paradoxical tear that could ripple across the galaxy, disrupting causality on a cosmic scale. That's why our original warning beacon was so urgent. It wasn't about territoriality. It was about preventing an existential disaster of their own making. They're not just risking their lives, Captain. They're risking everyone's. So they didn't just ignore our warning. They marched right into the trap we warned them about, thinking they could fix it with bigger hammers and a logic-defying disregard for cosmic stability. Jax muttered, shaking her head, a deep concern etched on her face. Typical arrogant fools. They're like toddlers playing with nuclear codes. All right, new plan, everyone, Eli said, his voice now a low, dangerous growl, his easygoing demeanor replaced by a steely, unyielding resolve. We're not just fighting them for our lives anymore. We're fighting them to save them from themselves and the rest of the galaxy from their colossal screw-up. We stop them from triggering that cascade, no matter what it takes. Mac, can you get me a full diagnostic on that experimental weapon we cobbled together? The Symphony Driver. This revelation changed everything. The fight was no longer just about survival. It was about protecting the galaxy from the Vorians' own arrogant ignorance, a ticking temporal bomb. The spirit of discovery, a humble explorer, was now the last line of defense against cosmic oblivion. It's a Frankenstein's monster of spare parts, Captain, and pure hope, Macmillan grunted, already moving towards a sparking console. We've got the phase coils from an old atmospheric processor, the resonance chamber from a derelict mining drone, and a whole lot of prayer. But if you give me 10 minutes and a prayer, I can get her sputtering. It's got more safety overrides than a toddler with a blowtorch and a loaded shotgun, though, likely to blow up in our faces as theirs. You've got 5, Mac. Then we improvise, like always. Eli said, his eyes scanning the Vorian formation. Jax, plot a course that takes us directly through their formation. We're going to use the nebula's core as cover, and then we're going to ram the heart of logic. Not to destroy it, but to disrupt it. To make them lose their perfect logical composure. A tense, stunned silence fell on the bridge. Ramming a Vorian flagship, even a partial ramming, was suicide for the Spirit of Discovery. Her hull was battered, her shield stressed. Captain, with all due respect, and I've seen you pull off some wild stunts, Jax began, her voice tight. That's a suicide run. We don't have the hull integrity. We'll be paced before we even scratch their paint. We're not ramming to destroy them, Jax, Eli clarified, a mischievous, almost insane glint in his eye. We're ramming to annoy them, to get close, to mess with their heads, to make them forget everything they know about orderly combat. Think of it as a very aggressive, very loud game of chicken, and we never chicken out. The Spirit of Discovery, battered but defiant, plunged deeper into the Veil Nebula, a rusty arrow flying into a pristine, deadly target. The Vorian fleet, still reeling from the holographic cattle and asteroid impacts, shifted its formation, attempting to encircle the human vessel with chilling precision. They were learning, adapting, but slowly, too slowly. They're adapting, Captain, Kai reported, her hands a blur on her console. Their interceptors are flying tighter patterns. Their capital ships are coordinating fire more effectively. They've filtered out the disco moves, Captain. They're still showing the baby pictures, though. Good, Eli said, a genuine smile returning to his face despite the mounting pressure. Means they're finally taking us seriously. Now let's remind them why they shouldn't. Eris, I need you to broadcast something personal, something they can't possibly categorize, quantify, or logically process, something that will make them question their very existence. Personal? Eris blinked, pushing his glasses up his nose, already anticipating the absurd. Captain, are you suggesting Terran poetry? Perhaps a selection from the Romantic period? Or a philosophical treatise on the inherent meaninglessness of existence? Even better, Eli said, eyes narrowed in thought, a conspiratorial grin spreading. I need you to broadcast the most agonizingly average, out-of-tune, tone-deaf performance of Happy Birthday you can find, and loop it at maximum volume, with added feedback, static, and intermittent bursts of air horn, and make sure it's got a distinct American twang to it. Something that screams, we're having a party, and you're not invited, but you're definitely going to hear it. Eris's face lit up, a mad gleam in his eye. Oh, Captain, a stroke of pure, unadulterated genius, the complete antithesis of logical auditory input. It will trigger their cognitive dissonance filters to critical levels. It's like trying to program a supercomputer with the rules of a backyard wrestling match. Their logic will seize. As the Spirit of Discovery weaved through the Vorian fleet, performing breathtaking, illogical, evasive maneuvers to avoid plasma blasts and laser fire, the hideous, off-key rendition of Happy Birthday began to echo across the entire Vorian comms network. It was truly awful. Notes soared wildly off-key, the tempo shifted erratically, as if the singer was having an allergic reaction to music, and a distorted feedback screech punctuated every verse, followed by the jarring blast of an air horn. It was a cacophony designed to irritate the very soul. On the heart of logic, Supreme Vizier Xylos 7 recoiled, its carapaced plates vibrating with intense discomfort. Its multiple optical sensors dimmed momentarily. What is that horrific noise? It demanded, its voice a strained, clicking rasp. My internal processors are reporting an auditory attack. It is asymmetrical and highly unpleasant. My data integrity is being compromised by the sheer illogic of the acoustic patterns. It's like sand in my core processors. Cathar, trembling faintly, consulted his datapad, his normal clicks replaced by ragged, uncontrolled chitters. Supreme Vizier, it is a Terran celebratory song, typically associated with birth anniversaries. Our analysis indicates it is being broadcast deliberately to inflict psychological distress through tonal and rhythmic incongruity. It is also causing a significant uptick in systemic frustration among bridge crew and a peculiar twitching in our lower limbs. Psychological distress? With singing, Xylos 7 clicked its mandibles in disbelief, its vast intellect struggling to process such an absurd concept. This species truly defies all logical classification. They weaponize melody, and badly at that. While the Vorians were distracted by the grating cacophony, their formations momentarily faltering as officers tried to filter out the noise or simply flinched away, Macmillan reported, "Symphony driver charged, Captain. She's humming like a dying banshee, but she's ready. But it's unstable, one shot, maybe two, before it fries itself and possibly the whole aft section. One shot is all we need, Mac," Eli roared, his voice filled with a desperate, exhilarating energy. "Jacks, straight for the heart of logic. Full speed ahead. Kai, target their primary temporal modulator. It's the large, glowing crystal array on their ventral hull. It's the biggest, shiniest target, and it's where they're trying to perform their cosmic surgery." The spirit of discovery, an unlikely David against a galaxy of Goliaths, surged forward. Vorian ships, momentarily disoriented by the off-key happy birthday broadcast and their internal processors screaming about auditory illogicality, struggled to reacquire their target. The Discovery passed within spitting distance of a Vorian cruiser, its shields barely holding, showering sparks from a plasma hit, before darting towards the massive flagship. "They are committing to a ramming trajectory," Cathar shrieked, his voice laced with pure, unadulterated panic. "Their logic indicates self-destruction. Their trajectory is suicidal. But their trajectory is erratic. Their hull is failing, yet they persist," Xylo 7 pulsed, a rare note of genuine confusion and, dare he admit, fear in its voice. "They are acting. Emotionally. They are defying the odds. What is this madness?" Just as the spirit of discovery seemed destined to slam into the heart of logic's unyielding hull, Eli Vance yelled, "Now, Mac! Fire the Symphony driver. Give them a taste of chaos they won't forget." A strange, pulsing wave of multi-frequency energy erupted from the spirit of discovery's bow. It wasn't a laser, or a plasma bolt, or even a kinetic slug. It was a wave of pure, chaotic energy, designed not to destroy, but to disrupt, at a fundamental, quantum level. It slammed into the heart of logic's primary temporal modulator, the massive, intricate crystal array on its ventral hull. The crystal array, which had been glowing with a steady, serene light, preparing for its disastrous antimatter injection, flickered wildly. Its elegant, logical energy patterns shattered, replaced by chaotic, shimmering distortions. The Vorian ship itself seemed to hiccup in space-time, briefly appearing to be in two places at once, then coalescing with a shuddering groan of tortured metal. Its internal systems shrieked in unison. "The temporal modulator is destabilizing. Catastrophic temporal resonance cascade detected," Cathar shrieked, his voice almost a sob. "Their weapon. It is not kinetic or energy-based. It is illogical. It is causing a localized temporal dissonance. Our antimatter injection protocols are cycling, shutting down. It deems itself unsafe. The anomaly is reacting violently." The heart of logic's main gun, which had been charging for a final, annihilating blast into the nebula's core, sputtered and died. Its antimatter injection protocols, which were about to be initiated into the nebula's core, automatically shut down, deemed unsafe by its now erratic systems. The entire ship vibrated with discordant temporal echoes. "Mac, get us out of here," Eli yelled, as alarms blared across the Discovery's bridge, the smell of ozone and burning circuits filling the air. The Symphony driver was indeed frying itself, smoke pouring from vents, sparks flying across the engineering section. "She's overheating, Captain. We're gonna blow. We're losing power on decks 4 through 7, Macmillan shouted, wrestling with sparking conduits, his face grim. "She gave her all, the old girl." "Not today, Mac," Eli retorted, his gaze already scanning the nebula. "Anya, full reverse. Jax, evasive maneuvers. Eris, tell me, how long until that Vorian temporal modulator stabilizes itself? And what's the projected damage to their ability to mess with that anomaly?" Eris, despite the chaos and the imminent danger of his ship exploding, had a look of utter, childlike fascination on his face. "Based on the unique chaotic resonance patterns in the feedback I'm getting, Captain, I estimate at least 10 standard cycles for full recalibration. They've effectively been temporarily lobotomized on their temporal manipulation capabilities. The antimatter injector is completely offline. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. They're flying blind through a temporal minefield now. The spirit of discovery, limping and smoking, hull groaning in protest, pulled away from the disoriented heart of logic. The rest of the Vorian fleet, witnessing the seemingly inexplicable failure of their flagship, the utter chaos emanating from its comms, and the bizarre temporal hiccups it was experiencing, paused. Their rigid tactical protocols had no response for a situation where their command vessel was lobotomized by a happy birthday song and a weapon that threw temporal tantrums. Their logical combat algorithm screamed, "Error, unknown range." "They're breaking formation, Captain," Kai shouted, her eyes wide with disbelief and triumph, her earlier fear replaced by exhilaration. "They're trying to re-establish comms with the heart of logic, but it's only broadcasting. Garbled data, a faint, off-key hum, and a very distorted recording of what sounds like a human child singing about the wheels on the bus." "That's the sound of victory, Kai," Eli grinned, leaning back in his chair, utterly exhausted but beaming, "and the sound of a very expensive alien ship trying to figure out if it just had a stroke and then decided to join a nursery rhyme choir. The Vorian fleet without centralized command, unable to trust their primary instruments in the presence of the now erratic temporal anomaly, and thoroughly demoralized by the incomprehensible defeat of their flagship, began to retreat. Not in a rout, not in a desperate flight, but in a confused, highly inefficient withdrawal. Their logic dictated self-preservation above all else, and clearly whatever the Terrans were, they were an unpredictable, illogical threat that defied all known defensive protocols and were therefore too dangerous to engage without a complete re-evaluation of their entire strategic doctrine. A final, hesitant hail came through from a mid-level Vorian cruiser, its voice box modulator struggling with the internal chaos. It wasn't a demand, but an inquiry, tinged with something akin to bewildered respect. "Terran vessel, what was that? Your warning, was it about your song?" Eli Vance, battered, tired, but unbowed, adjusted his collar, a proud American glint in his eye. "Yeah, buddy, that was about this. We told you it'd mess with your logic. We told you it was dangerous. Maybe next time you listen to the guys who bring the cosmic glitter bombs, the off-key serenades, and the stubborn refusal to let you blow up a perfectly good anomaly just because it messes with your neat little algorithms. We told you there were things you didn't understand, and we meant it." The Vorian ship disconnected, its signal dissolving back into the static. The nebula shimmered, the anomaly pulsed with its usual serene yet dangerous rhythm, untouched by antimatter. The spirit of discovery floated, damaged but intact, a monument to human resilience, ingenuity, and a certain kind of glorious, chaotic absurdity. Macmillan emerged from engineering, covered in soot and smelling faintly of burnt wiring, a wrench still clutched in one hand, a wide, triumphant grin on his face. "Symphony driver's toast, Captain, but boy did she sing. The happy birthday was a nice touch. I think I heard one of their officers try to hit a high note before their comms went dead. Probably gave them nightmares of poorly attended birthday parties for centuries." Jax shook her head, a rare, genuine smile gracing her lips. "I can't believe we just intimidated an interstellar empire with bad singing, holographic cows, and weaponized asteroids. I'm going to need a very large coffee and a very long nap." "That's the American way, Jax," Eli said, surveying the damage to his beloved ship with a fond gaze. "We don't always have the biggest guns or the most elegant plans, but we've got the biggest hearts, the craziest ideas, and a stubborn refusal to give up, especially when someone's messing with our cosmic backyard. Plus, we know how to throw a really confusing party, even in deep space." Eris Thorne, already back to his data analysis, despite the exhaustion, looked up excitedly, scribbling notes on a smudged datapad. "Captain, I've been reviewing the Vorian sub-frequency broadcast during the engagement. They were attempting to quantify the emotional impact of the happy birthday song. Their lead psychological warfare expert, Xylos Prime Psi 9, theorized it was a neurological weapon designed to induce irrational euphoria followed by existential despair. He even noted a statistically significant increase in involuntary mandible clicking among their bridge crew, correlated with a desire to unplug themselves. Eli laughed, a genuine, hearty sound that filled the bridge, a sound of relief and profound satisfaction. Well, bless their pointy heads. They're trying to make sense of us. That's step one. Step two is teaching them how to loosen up a little. Maybe next time we'll introduce them to a good old-fashioned American barbecue or a baseball game. We'll show them how to have fun, even if it defies all logic. The galaxy, vast and ancient, had ignored humanity's warning. It had dismissed us as primitive, illogical, and irrelevant. But then, it met the first human ship, a battered vessel with a crew of mavericks, scientists, and engineers who understood that the true strength of a species wasn't in its logic or its technology, but in its spirit, its creativity, its sheer, unpredictable, glorious absurdity, and its unwavering defense of what's right. We didn't just win a battle. We shattered their perception of reality and saved them from their own cold, calculating arrogance. And somewhere, across the void, Avorian's supreme vizier probably lay awake at night, its carapaced plates vibrating subtly, trying to get "happy birthday" out of its head, forever puzzled by the species that fought with laughter, bad singing, and an inexplicable love for holographic farm animals. The message had been sent, loud and clear. You may have ignored our warning, but you'll never ignore us again. Not now that you've met the first human ship. And Eli Vance, looking out at the shimmering, dangerous beauty of the Veil Nebula, a region now safe from Vorian stabilization, knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy had a lot more to learn about humanity, and humanity, for its part, was always eager to teach, especially with a good story to tell, a laugh to share, and a little bit of chaos to stir things up. After all, what's life without a little bit of unexpected fun, even when staring down cosmic annihilation?